quick couple of announcements before we start today's episode. First, Dice Goblins is out on the Dice Goblins channel. It is the first episode of our one-shot. I hope you guys enjoy. And also, we're doing a Q&A this Monday. You can post your questions in the comments down below or in the community tab I'm going to post up today. Alright, enjoy the video. During a Discord call, the GM said one of the most horrifying things I've ever heard in a game.
Hang on, guys. I gotta kill this roach on my wall.
Oh shit, I can fly! Oh shit, I can fly! Don't fly at me, motherfucker!
GM got disconnected right there. That was horrifying to hear. I love how we don't get confirmation on if he ever came back or not. Maybe he did come back, but he was never himself again. This story takes place about a year ago. We as a group are very tightly knit, and by this point we are pretty deep into this homebrew 5e setting our DM made. It's had its ups and downs, but we are very invested in our characters, and these were our only proper hangout times. The party consisted of my half-elf, half-Eladrin ranger, a blind monk, a hobgoblin fighter who used to be a king, a dragonborn barbarian, and later paladin, and of course our DM. The plot was fairly interesting. Our group of 4 was going after a cult. To our DM's credit, he introduced a very smart plotline earlier in the campaign, revealing how this cult actually impacted all of our lives. The eldritch monster that crippled my ranger's dad and killed his best friend was the cult's deity. Our monk's former love interest had a crazed breakdown and died because her mind got corrupted by the same thing. Our hobgoblin fighter lost his kingdom, wife, and child, also due to its influence on their people. And our dragonborn barbarian was not only manipulated into betraying the party by the cult, but apparently her tyrannical dragon father was working with it as well. When our DM introduced this twist, we were all extremely hyped. It made us feel interconnected. It made the journey feel like it's more than just a meaningless adventure, and instead made it a mission to avenge the lives we could have had, but got derailed by this eldritch cult. Sure, the way he dropped it on us was a bit lame. A random goddess just appeared and straight up told us, and then dipped. By the way, small intervention, but holy hell did he overuse his gods. Instead of creating normal NPCs for us to interact with, everything was either 1, a meta joke that only he could laugh with, or 2, his gods that seemed to have nothing better to do than interact with our characters or fight amongst each other. His gods would often come in during roleplay heavy moments and force us to stop what we are doing, aka trying to stop a railroaded NPC death or heal our character's problems away. My character's entire arc about accepting himself got fixed because if he didn't force himself to do it, his deity would literally disown him and smite him. Anyway, back on topic. We were all hyped about this, and our characters continued to search for the cult with a newly found determination in their eyes. They continued doing so for a while, like a pretty long while. Like, it was such a long while that one of the characters had a whole arc where he faked his own death because he couldn't face the shame of what he was becoming. All that time, not a single clue given by the DM about how to track the cult down or any sign of activity from it. Not for a lack of effort, may I add. My ranger's perception and insight were busted, yet no matter where we looked, what we did, or who we asked, nothing ever showed up. By this point, we were starting to get bored, as not much was happening in the story that was interesting besides the one arc that our fighter king planned with the DM for his character, which was very well executed, and the tension between the ranger/barbarian duo and the fighter were really tense, mostly because they saw him as their mentor/father figure. So him leaving them due to his cowardice and faking his death really raised the party tension. We also got some details about how the cult managed to bring the fighter's kingdom to ruin during that arc, so that was super cool. Big props to our fighter for planning something so tense. But besides that, the plot was going absolutely nowhere. It wasn't until the second to last session of the campaign where stuff actually started to happen. Much earlier in the campaign, a random guy threw some darts at our monk. Darts which our monk picked up because he thought it would be a waste to just leave them there. Apparently those totally normal looking darts belong to a super strong goddess that we had never met before and don't even know about out of character. Even though she is later stated to be all-knowing, she calls us thieves and scum and whatever for stealing her darts from her. We try to prove our innocence calmly while she manically attacks us. She manages to apprehend us all very swiftly without ever having to roll, or having us roll. My ranger, who had the ability to teleport people he touched, managed to teleport away the cleric that had joined us to replace the fighter, who left. Still the same player, by the way. Pleading with the goddess that the cleric has nothing to do with this situation, thus shouldn't have to pay for the cost of their actions. The goddess recaptures the cleric in seconds to continue to insult us and refuses to listen to reason or just let us return her damn darts. Her screaming had gone on for a few hours, both in and out of game. We had sat there, with the exception of the paladin who was missing that day, for 3 real-life hours, watching our DM write paragraphs that seemed to just repeat the same content of the previous one. We, in fact, got so bored that me, the fighter, and the monks players got in a call to make the time go by faster. Here comes the main part of this horror story. My ranger tries to explain how, "Hey, we're sorry about the darts, you can have them back, we literally don't care, we have a cult to find, do you have any possible idea about where it is?" To which the goddess replied by telling us the cult doesn't exist. Initially, she just calls us liars, but later states how it could be the work of one of the gods she's had drama with. We, under the impression that the cult actually does exist, she just doesn't know, try our hardest to convince her. Our efforts amounted to 1. A real-life hour of us trying to convince her that we are being sincere. At this point, we have gotten fed up and asked the DM out of character what we can do to convince her, or at least just get out of this stupid situation. He in turn tells us that she isn't wrong, that the cult actually isn't real, and it's just a shared hallucination, or something like that. Upon hearing that, we ask if it was a temporary thing? Like, will it be revealed that this is just the cult fooling the gods or something? The reason we asked is because he made jokes like, "Ooh, what if all your backstories were actually a hallucination?" multiple times, so by this point, we couldn't tell if he was joking or not. He announces that, nope, this is actually how the story will progress, having a focus on the drama between his gods, all that typed out with a very excited tone. I couldn't possibly tell you what happened next simply because I got so pissed off upon hearing how all of our backstories are technically an illusion and that the last 5 months of play meant nothing. How everything we had been waiting for didn't amount to shit. I got so angry that I just mentally clocked out and started playing a mobile game while the fighter and monk tried to understand what was actually happening. I genuinely don't remember what happened in the rest of that situation, but it's fair to say that nobody had fun. Sitting there for 5 hours expecting plot development just to turn your backstory into a hallucination that doesn't matter, followed by the DM shifting the focus of the story towards the drama between his OC gods. That's not fun. Our barbarian agreed with this upon hearing what she missed. The DM found himself incredibly surprised when we stated how we didn't like getting our backstories written out for the sake of revealing drama between OCs that we have never met nor follow. The only party member that actually cares about the will of the gods is my ranger, and it's only for a specific goddess that supposedly looks out for his family. The DM said that he thought it was a cool twist, to which we respond with a very clear, no, it wasn't. I elaborate further by explaining how we were very attached to our characters, and we are interested in seeing them defeat their demons and take their revenge on the people that hurt them. So the plot suddenly changing to be about gods we have never met, nor have any relation with, was very, very underwhelming. The DM didn't take this very well. He went to the DM of our monk's player and ranted about how we were ungrateful and disregarded his efforts and asked, and I quote, "Why does everything always have to be about their characters?" Me, the fighter, and paladin didn't learn about this conversation until much later, but our monk seems to have handled it well by explaining why they mean so much to us and why this new plot development threw us off so hard. The DM's tantrum seems to have ended after that conversation, but you could still sense his slight bitterness from said events. He offered to retcon that session and play it out differently, but the energy remained very awkward. This ended the session very prematurely, swiftly followed by the DM announcing how it's going to be an indefinite break, again. We never had a full session after that one. Soon after, our DM left our friend group entirely, mostly because he had a problem with me, something which leaked into the campaign multiple times. Instead of trying to solve it through communication, he tried gaslighting me to the entire friend group after making his very extra exit, leaving all possible servers of groups we had, including group chats from 2017 nobody even remembered existing. He claims it was because he didn't want any of us to contact him, but only unfriended me and proceeded to tell everyone that I was an asshole to him, which is fair. I had been unnecessarily mean to him in the past. We had our issues, but I'm the one that tried solving them and would apologize to him in every way I could after I realized I was being mean to him. His attempts to get people to turn on me seemed to have backfired, as most people were present during my apologies towards him, and they all clocked out. Yes, they realized that this was all just some kind of guilt trip. Additionally, he invalidated our fighter player's trauma and mocked our monk's panic attacks, then tried to claim how we would only give him attention during D&D, but did not engage with conversations with him, which is false. All our conversations were in servers he was in as well. He chose not to engage or adapt to the situation, and he chose to ignore our attempts to engrave him better into the friend group. He also complained that we mocked him every time he spammed the lyrics every time we touch, causing him to have severe insecurities. This ended in a shitfest where out-of-character problems matched with bad story beats, leading to a dumpster fire of drama. It's a sad conclusion to a campaign that all 4 of us were really invested in, our monk player having drawn over 100 pieces of art for the campaign. Sucks to see these characters that we love so dearly never get a proper conclusion. The fact that we were all very introverted, text-only Discord D&D group consisting of 16 to 17-year-old queer kids, and the token straight, doesn't help in finding a new DM either. But at least it made for a good story to tell friends or strangers on the internet. Hope you enjoyed it. TLDR, DM writes off our backstories for the sake of making the campaign be about his OCs, then gets mad when we don't like it. Alright, so let's make this part painfully clear. The NPCs are never the main characters. It is always the player characters that take the spotlight as the main characters. That's their entire purpose. The story should revolve around them. It should be about them. It should never deviate from them and become about drama between a couple of NPCs, whether they're gods or not. Now, that's not to say that NPCs should never be important, or that NPCs can't have character development. That would be dumb. NPCs can have character development, but they can't take the spotlight away from player characters, no matter how much development an NPC is supposed to get. And by the way, if you're writing so much development for an NPC, you should really start reconsidering that. Again, the story should focus on the players. Be invested in their characters instead of your own NPCs as a DM. I enjoy my NPCs. I like a lot of them. I'm very attached to some of them, but at the end of the day, the story is about the players, and I go out of my way to become attached to their characters as well. It makes it much easier for me to write stories that revolve around them. Never make the story about the NPCs. Ever. It's bad form. And also, retconning so that you can do that and completely deleting player backstory, well, that's probably one of the worst things you could do. If you enjoyed this episode of RPG Horror Stories, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then please do subscribe to Crispy's Tavern. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment retcon to let me know that you made it to the end of the video. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.